The secret to writing is to show up at your keyboard at this consistently at the same time and just bleed.
How does a person answer why something happens?
When you look at the findings in different fields,
Scant is the part of life in which we live.
To attain the highest values.
Let's talk about content creation now. So what does your process look like? A lot of people struggle with just coming up with ideas, being consistent, repurposing. How do you think about those topics?
I think the hardest thing is just creating consistently. I think it was in my old office when I had all 3 posters up. I think it was the middle one that was create every day, and that's the hardest one. It's especially hard because it's something that you can build up and then lose. So, for example, when my most prolific time, basically when I built my whole audience, I wrote 1,000 words a day for over 600 days in a row. And that was just that was the most important thing I did in my work at that time. My whole career is built on this one habit. And then it got to the point where I broke the habit. I actually got really sick. I got some shingles and a whole thing. And then at various times I've restarted that habit, but I've never made it more than 50 to 100 days. And so I think the hardest thing is just that, showing up consistently. I don't know who it's a quote by. There's so many great quotes from writers, but it's I only write when I'm inspired. I just happen to get inspired every morning at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
And then there's another one which I wish I could attribute, and it's basically the secret to writing is to show up at your keyboard at this consistently at the same time and just bleed.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? And they're like, no, just suffer through it until.
That's what it is. Yeah. Yeah. I think it was Neil Gaiman might be one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a bunch of those. Another one that I like is if you hit writer's block, just lower your standards and keep writing.
Yeah.
That's the thing. When you sit there and can't get anything out there.
That's the shitty first drafts. Yeah, just get the shit out until you can get to the good stuff.
Yep. And so that's the probably the last one along those lines would be Seth Godin. He talks about writer's block. He's like, I don't think writer's block is a thing. And his solution for it, is to write like you talk. And you can't even just talk and have it recorded or transcribed. And he's like, because talker's block isn't a thing. You don't. So it's just how would you explain that concept to somebody else? What are you trying to say?
Yeah.
And then either explain it to another person, who a real live human, or in programming, there's this idea of rubber ducking, where basically, because what always happens is you turn to your coworker I'm really stuck on this problem, you explain it to them, and in the course of explaining it, you solve it yourself. You're like, I found the bug, and you go fix it. And so the running joke is let me just give you a rubber duck, and that way you explain it to the duck and don't tap me on the shoulder, and you'll solve it.
Yeah. You get
and so a lot of that is, if you're stuck in what to write, then have, my son left this cute little kangaroo on my desk. So it's okay, explain your problem to, what are you trying to solve?
Yeah.
Explain that to the kangaroo and write that down. And the hardest thing is to just do it every single day consistently. People get into should I write on the weekends? Should I? And it's I don't care. Just pick something and stick with it.